Welcome back, BX3 listeners. We're back in the studio once more. Eric, how are you, sir?
Excellent. I'm going to learn how to figure out a hashtag.
I've
said it now a few times.
It doesn't have to be hashtag. It's just BX3.
It's just BX3?
Yeah, it's just a shortened version.
Okay.
It's Buns, Burgers, Big Ideas. It's BBB, three B's, B times 3.
I absolutely love it. I think it's great. Well, as long as we don't change it, right? B's? Maybe we should go on A's.
A's?
A's.
A times 3.
B's,
See, it doesn't make...
yeah, it doesn't work.
No.
BX3 it is.
BX3.
All right.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Buns, Burgers, Big Ideas. Nothing but big ideas today.
Yeah, all big ideas. Big brain stuff.
Jump right in.
Yes.
Well, we talked, it was funny, we talked about observing, right, and versus like jumping right in. But I'm going to tell you, I love solving problems. I love jumping right in. People got issues. I got solutions.
I got solutions. You got the answers.
You know it, too.
Honestly, it's like, Eric, I have a question. I have an answer.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? Oh, man. It's just, it's crazy, right, as leaders. And I know sometimes you guys probably see it, too. Like, people have problems. They're like, I can tell you exactly what to do.
If you just listen.
Yeah. And I used to be very open about that. I used to tell everybody all the time what to do and how to do it. But now apparently that's not the right way.
It's a different style nowadays.
Styles change.
Styles change.
It's true 20 years ago, right? Well, 30. It's almost 30. It's 27 now with, McDonald's in the fast food world. But we used to just... my boss, right? Would just tell me what to do, how to do it, and how high to jump type stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and sure, that's still there, but that's not the culture that we necessarily. Yeah. That's not the. What do they say? That's the exception, not the rule.
Okay.
Because
there are times you do need to be direct.
Yes, you do need to instruct and go do this, jump this high.
Food safety issue. Yes. Be direct. Fix it.
Be direct. Fix it. Yeah.
All right.
But being able to let your team kind of struggle and find their way without necessarily jumping in right away is kind of, I think, what we're trying to do.
Well, I feel like we would be pretty good at this, right? Or having to learn this because you live in a house full of ladies. I live in a house full of ladies. And apparently for some of the ladies out there, you just want to be heard and not told. So I'm learning that, especially as some of my daughters get older and older. Dad, I don't need that. Yeah, okay.
All right. I'm just listening.
So we have a clip. We have a clip to kind of share that.
This is from Entree Leadership. They talk about exactly what we're about to talk about.
It reminds me of the quote, not my monkey, not my circus. And sometimes as a leader, you got to remind yourself because leaders love solving problems. Yeah. And it's one of the reasons they've gotten into business. It's one of the reasons they're successful is they're great problem solvers. And so they just want to find the problems and they're good at it. And so they jump into the mess. But sometimes the best thing you can do is empower your team and help them solve it and help delegate instead of taking it all on yourself, becoming a bottleneck and getting distracted from your KRA, what you're supposed to do to move the business forward.
Not my circus, not my monkeys.
Is that a good way to just dismiss everything?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Like that's not my circus, not my monkeys. But like your kids are your monkeys,
That's what they say. Well, it's funny though, because as you look at that, like not my circus, not my monkeys, right? It's really easy for some of us, and it's not everybody, and I get all that, but like, well, that's their problem. That's their department. That's their thing. But that's not necessarily where this clip goes.
Yes, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
So it's not my circus, not my monkeys in the sense that they still want to help the monkeys that aren't theirs or not their circus, right? But that doesn't mean you can't be supportive and can't be involved in helping that circus.
Yeah. Well, what I've learned too is as you and we talked about, right, as you observe and you listen more, right, the 2 ears, 1 mouth type thing. But what I've learned is as I've listened more and I've got better at asking the right questions. Like I think that the questions we ask have to get better, and we need to do more learning around that, especially in a leadership position. But sometimes when you're asking the right questions, it leads us down a path to where they figure out their own solution.
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. That's the whole thing.
Yeah.
Is getting them to either find out the answer themselves or, let them fail to a point where they ask for more, like help, like show me, right?
Yep.
But a lot of times leaders or managers, they just jump in because they see a problem, they fix problems, they want to help. Yeah. But sometimes that can undermine the development that could happen if you take that time to ask those questions.
Yeah, I agree. And we see it in the restaurants all the time, right? When you're in a rush and you got, long lines and, the leader, the GM, the assistant manager, like somebody will jump in and they just fix it automatically. And then as soon as things are running well, what do? You walk away without maybe piecing the things together
Making
as well.
the connections, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot of firefighting without like explaining how you put out the fire.
Yeah. Well, even before then, right? Like, is it worth asking the question, hey, I see we have long waits right now. What are 2 or 3 things we could do before I jump in and help you? Right?
That's a great question. As a shift leader, that is something you could ask, or even a general manager, right? Leadership. Before I come and bail you out, so to speak.
Yeah.
Give me a couple of things, rapid fire. Like, and if they don't know, cool. Now you know where to develop and coach them.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
If we just fix the issues and never teach or coach to those,
they're never going to learn.
It's hard to see it, and it can be hard to see, especially when you're in it. And that's where I know we've talked about internal verifications for our shift managers, but we have good shift managers. We just need to help go from good to great.
And great leaders too.
But our leaders have to be great, and our leaders have to ask the right questions, and we have to coach, and we have to observe, and we have to do all of these leadership attributes that we talk about on this podcast on a weekly basis, where we're taking the time to really teach the fish to swim, right? We say we're here to empower and develop, but what are we really doing to help with that?
Yeah. The push with the internal verifications that, again, we've talked about is really going to help with that, because it's going to give that space for the coaching to happen. And I think that's where the general managers or the leaders will end up becoming closer and learning more about their shift leaders when they're doing those things.
Yeah. The coaching along the way is the important part, right? We want to continuously coach, and we want to continuously coach to those standards. And if we're just simply supplying the solutions every time, it's just now all of a sudden you're building an inherent system where they're relying on your answer. And then we wonder why we get the late night calls where somebody didn't make the decision. They're like, wow, they can't. They just don't.
I have to go in and work overnight because they can't figure out this thing. It's like, that's on you as a leader, 100%.
Well, and when do we take that look and say, okay, it is me, right? It was we had a conversation with one of our team members last week, and there's like, well, nobody likes me. Every restaurant I go to, nobody likes me. But I'm just telling them what to do, how to do it. I'm there to help, but like, well, when are you the problem and not them, right? If you're telling me every place you go,
it's the same issue.
It's the same issue. Then at some point we got to have some self-reflection, and that's to that point. How do we help them see their issues and without necessarily fixing the problem?
Yeah.
So,
how would we get them to see those things without necessarily, calling them out directly? Is there ways that, like, back to what you were saying about asking the right questions?
Yep.
Like, can we ask that team member, like, well, what do you think? Why do you think they don't get along with you?
Yep.
Or I don't know, questions like that.
But it's true. You have to keep expanding on that.
Yeah.
Because until I have the light bulb, you can tell me everything you want, but I got blinders on. I've been doing this long enough where I don't need you to tell me what to do. But all of a sudden there has to be an epiphany at some point. Right? And that's the questions we have to keep asking until we can help them with that breakthrough. And it might not happen in one session.
Right.
Like, I think sometimes too, we as leaders,
we want it to happen.
It's going to happen. I see the problem and I have you the solution, and now you need to listen to me. But it's not going to happen right then and there always.
Yeah.
So how do we have those continuous conversations?
It's the follow up. It's and just how we're trying to get them to coach their team. We have to coach them and develop them into these better leaders. And it takes time.
Yep. We've all shared our stories. I know I've shared mine, on here before, but I haven't always been the greatest at listening. I've always given solutions, and it's my way or the highway type conversations. But like you said earlier, we're in a kind of that new wave, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's a generational thing. It's just we're in a new wave of leadership, and people want to be heard. They want to be respected.
They want to be led.
They want to be led, and we have to do better at that.
They want to be led. And, I've had different bosses and different jobs throughout the years, and honestly, I've been pretty grateful to have mosely good bosses. Looking back at it from what I know now, maybe they didn't even know how good of a leader they were at that time.
Yeah.
And I think it's so cool now that this new wave, or whatever we want to call it, is demanding more of that, though. And it's forcing previous leaders to not necessarily change, but pivot to a whole new, different type of leadership.
I guess kind of as we look to wrap up, there's always going to be the should I and when do I jump in? but try to give a little bit more leash, right? Like that's I think all I would ask of people on the for our audience out there is try to give your team a little bit more leash, because ultimately, as I've given more leash, I've been thoroughly and happily surprised. Is that a word? Thoroughly and happily? Like that sounds
good.
I've been really, really impressed. How about that? I've been really impressed with our team's capability.
Yeah.
But until I gave that leash, I would have never known.
You never would have saw it
Yeah.
or experienced it. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thanks for the conversation. As always, listen,
learn,
and lead.
Yes.
We'll see you next time, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Buns, Burgers, and Big Ideas. We hope today's episode inspired fresh ideas for your leadership journey. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and keep learning with us as we continue to explore leadership in the QSR world. Until next time, take care and lead well.